Trade talks are heating up for the Edmonton Oilers as Pierre LeBrun released an article for The Athletic highlighting one specific player, and I'll get into all that and more today on Oilers Digest. We're back from a mini holiday break. Hope everybody had a very Merry Christmas and a very happy holidays as we're sort of in that twilight zone between, Christmas Day and New Year's Eve, but still lots of hockey to be played for the Edmonton Oilers and even for Team Canada for the World Juniors, even after that devastating shootout loss to Team Latvia last night, but we will also get into that later on. But first, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, make sure you do so. If you're part of the 90% that have subscribed to the channel, I'd like to thank each and every one of you. Of course, heading into the new year, lots of, exciting things planned for the channel. But if you're part of the 80% of folks that have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Again, about to be a very exciting 2025. But without further ado, trading places. Yes, Pierre LeBrun had an article, not just, about the Oilers, but about, one specific target for each team in the NHL. And the Oilers, their target, David Savard from the Montreal Canadiens. He had this to say. He said his play has dipped this season, which, of course, right off the bat, and not what you want to hear exactly, but 34 years old, veteran, 3.5 million. I want to say he is in the last year of his deal, so it could be retained. But in the context of a Habs team that has not been very good defensively, and they just picked up Alexander Carrier, which could be Savard's replacement, I would imagine Cup contenders would look at Savard's body work and conclude it would travel well if he's put in the right role into the Oilers. There will be better trade targets on the market, to be sure, but I think, as a 6th or 7th defenseman who can help kill penalties and who won a cup with the Lightning, plus is a right-shot defenseman, he's a sensible idea for Edmonton, especially considering I don't think Savard would cost an arm and a leg. That will be appealing for an Oilers team without a first-round pick this year. Now, of course, David Savard, not exactly at the top of my list when it comes to Oilers trade targets, especially on the blue line, when really, there are better names, but of course it wouldn't be the worst option. There are far worse options out there. Right shot defenseman can play in a very shutdown role, great on the penalty kill. Of course, the Oilers do have Ty Emberson there as the right shot on the penalty kill. Do I think Ty Emberson, they invested a lot into him, but may as well keep him around. But with Savard, 32 games, of course, you're not really in it for the offensive stats at all. 24 giveaways, 9 takeaways, but again, it's his, defensive prowess that teams are really liking. He's very gritty, he's very tough, and again, on the Lightning, those Lightning teams, that was something they wanted desperately and really propelled them to another Stanley Cup championship in 2021. But when it comes to other targets for the Oilers this year, when it comes to puck IQ, they recommend when they recommend for defensemen, looking at their assessment of left-handed blue liners who are facing leads. Of course, when it comes to this point of the season, Stan Bowman doesn't really care if it's a right-handed or left-shot defenseman. Whatever he can get, he will get. While also, performing for sellers at the deadline, we get some interesting options. Of course, Bowen Byram for the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres, not doing too hot. Of course, they just rattle off 2 straight blowout wins, but of course, there was that awful losing streak. Olli Mata, Mike Matheson, who, I would prefer over David Savard from the Montreal Canadiens, another puck-moving defenseman. I would love a puck-moving defenseman over a shutdown guy, and then Marcus Patterson from the Pittsburgh Penguins. And lastly, one that I'm really looking at in the Columbus Blue Jackets are looking to sell is Ivan Provorov. Of course, on the last when it comes to time on ice versus elites, he's last on this list. But I think the Oilers, they could get him for a very good deal. Of course, 36 games so far with the Columbus Blue Jackets, 3 goals, 11 assists. Of course, the giveaways and takeaways, but the time on ice, 23 minutes, almost 24 minutes a night against good teams. Of course, when it comes to the time on ice, of course, it's 537, so a good chunk of that is spent away from elites, but they are against elites nonetheless. And of course, I'd probably put him on like a pairing with Darnell Nurse. Of course, if you said that to me before the season, I would think you're crazy. But the way Nurse has played this season, I think a player like Ivan Provorov next to him, and then a Kulak Emberson third pairing, that would give the Edmonton Oilers a bona fide cup contending blue line. Of course, the odd man out in this situation would be Troy Stecher. All the love to Troy Stecher, liked him as a player, but of course, when you're going into the playoffs and you have Troy Stecher as a full timer, that is not what you want at all. But David Savard, of course, I think for the Oilers, he would be the break glass in case of emergency type player. If they're not able to get anybody else, there's a pretty good chance Stan Bowman will go for a guy like David Savard. I don't hate him, I don't love him. He's just one of those players like you hardly ever hear about him because he's very steady. But when he does mess up, boy, you hear about it. And that happens as well to Evan Bouchard. And Evan Bouchard will be in the lineup today as the Oilers are Californian dreaming after their short little holiday break. And Stuart Skinner had this to say about, the holiday break and getting back into the swing of things. He says, I think we're in a good spot. We're finding ways to win games. We don't want to lose 2 in a row, and we've been doing a pretty good job of that lately. I think the way we've been playing on all ends of the ice has been pretty consistent, and consistency was the Oilers' biggest problem to start the year, and we are seeing the same old Oilers yet again, and that is fantastic. Of course, heading into the break, we're going to relax and kick up the legs so we can feel rested coming into the rest of the season. And they will be in action today, 3 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Mountain, against the Los Angeles Kings. Yes, a familiar foe in the Pacific Division, the one that the Oilers have been the most familiar with over the past, 3-4 years when it comes to the first round playoff matchups. The Oilers in Los Angeles today from Bob Stauffer. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins back in the lineup after missing the Sunday night game against the Ottawa Senators, right next to Connor McDavid and Zach Hyman, Vasily Podkolzin, Leon Draisaitl, and Victor Arvidsson, so we don't see that second line Podkolzin, Draisaitl, and Kasperi Kapanen anymore, as Kasperi Kapanen is on the third line with Adam Henrique and Connor Brown, and then Jeff Skinner, Matthias Janmark, and Corey Perry, and Derek Ryan is the extra forward. Not too sure about breaking up the Janmark, Henrique, Brown line. I think they played excellent on Sunday night against Ottawa and into the playoffs, building off of that playoff chemistry. But it'll be interesting to see. And of course, Jeff Skinner still in the doghouse on the fourth line. Of course, Kris Knoblauch did allude to the fact that he would be playing, have a more advanced role later on in the season. But again, that remains to be seen. And on the back end here, Matthias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard, Darnell Nurse and Troy Stetcher, and Brett Kulak and Ty Emberson, and Stuart Skinner gets the start for Edmonton this afternoon. And of course, when it comes to a tale of two teams for the Oilers, they scored 2.63 goals per game and allowed 3.16 goals through the first 5 weeks of the season. Of course, that was a very brutal first 5 weeks of the season. You could it really reflected in the content here. Those were not some fun videos to make, but we've had some excellent videos in the meantime. But they've done a 180-degree flip, averaging 4 goals, while limiting opponents to an average of 2.33 from November 19th and onward. Special teams have also improved, and it's really reflected on the whole of the Oilers, with the power play going from 16.3% efficiency to nearly 28.2% in the penalty kill. Again, the biggest story here, from a 67.4% success rate up to 86.7. So again, a tale of two teams, and again, the same old Oilers that we have missed drastically here. But when it comes to the Oilers and the Kings, neck in neck, sort of jockeying for that second spot in the Pacific Division, while Vegas seems to be taking off there, but that's a different story for a different time. Edmonton and Los Angeles very familiar with each other. LA coming in this game with a two-game losing streak, mind you, and the Oilers coming into this one with a 3-game win streak. Hopefully they can continue with that this afternoon. When it comes to advanced analytics here, again, the Oilers and Kings neck in neck when it comes to Corsi for against, shot attempts against, and then shot attempts for the Oilers and Kings, both in the good quadrant there, which is what you love to see. And of course, Carolina off in their own little island there. And then in their last 10 games, the Oilers averaging almost 4 goals per game while giving up just 2.2. The Kings have also been good of late as well, putting together a 6-2-2 record in their last 10 games. In that time frame, the team has been scoring an average of 3.3 goals per game and allowing just 2.1 goals per game. So both teams very stout defensively. So expect a barn burner today, folks, an offensive barn burner. Just taking a look at the Kings lineup here: Alex Turcotte, Andrei Kopitar, and Adrian Kempe make up their first line. Of course, Kempe, an Oiler killer in the playoffs these last couple of years. And then Warren Foegele, his first game against the Edmonton Oilers should be an interesting one to see. He's been having a pretty good season with the LA Kings so far, with Quentin Byfield and Tanner Jeannot, which is a very interesting second line there with two big forwards in Byfield and Jeannot, and then Warren Vogel, the little Spezzer, and then Kevin Fiala, Philip Deneau, and Alex Laferriere make up their third line, and then their fourth line with Andre Lee, Sammy Helenius, and Akil Thomas. Most notably the Canadian Golden Goal winner at the 2020 World Juniors on the fourth line for the LA Kings on the back end there. A back end that still does not have Drew Doughty, but it is still fantastic nonetheless, with Mikey Anderson and Vladislav Gavrikov, Joel Edmondson, Brand Clark, and Jacob Movrar, and Jordan Spence. And between the pipes today for the LA Kings, who is giving you a very, very mean look there, Darcy Kemper with a save percentage of .911 and a goals against average of 2.40 with 8 wins and 16 games played this season for the LA Kings. Of course, Darcy Kemper and the Oilers, a familiar foe coming back to the 2022 Western Conference Final against the Colorado Avalanche. And when it comes to the future of the Oilers, a little World Junior update there. Bo Aki, the Boxing Day game against the Finnish team, only on the ice for 2 minutes and 38 seconds. And then last night, the unfortunate loss to Latvia, but good on Latvia. I mean, it's always good to see a team not really, known for, being a hockey powerhouse, taking out the big names. It had to be Team Canada, but nonetheless, you gotta love it. That's a fantastic story. But Bo Aki in that first game, 2:38, but last night improved to 14 minutes and 34 seconds, but at the expense of Matthew Schaefer going down with a shoulder injury 2 minutes and 8 seconds into the game against Latvia last night, and he will miss the rest of the World Juniors. So it remains to be seen if they call up somebody and then Bo Aki slots into a bigger role, or if he just remains the seventh defenseman for Team Canada and just has those limited minutes. But the World Junior experience, nonetheless, still good for Bo Aki. I mean, he's had a pretty good season with the Barrie Colts so far this season. So again, it's a very short tournament, but things can happen with players getting a bigger role than expected. And on the USA side, with Paul Fischer, another Oilers prospect, he only had 6 minutes against Team Germany on Boxing Day, and he will be sitting out this game against Latvia later on today. Again, a game that got a lot more interesting compared to, coming into this one. Of course, Latvia with a back-to-back Canada-USA, they're expecting both blowouts, but again, Latvia, feel-good story, beating Canada, taking on the Americans today, and Paul Fischer, the Oilers prospect, will not be seen. But you can still see the actual Oilers team this afternoon against the LA Kings. And again, which should be a fantastic one. It's kind of a weird timing, two Pacific Division rivals being put, in the afternoon, but the NHL schedule makers, that's neither here or there. That is it for today's video. Make sure to subscribe here to the channel for more Oilers updates and more World Juniors updates as that tournament goes on. And let me know what you think about, David Savard to the Edmonton Oilers. Would you rather want somebody else? And your thoughts about the game today in Team Canada. Enjoy the game today, folks. Let's go Oilers. Take care. Have a fantastic Saturday and a great weekend. I'm Matt.